Welcome back to the Strength and Speed podcast. I'm your host, Strength and Speed owner and Conquer the Gauntlet Pro, Evan Preparis. Got a guest with us joining to talk about some OCR and some fundraising stuff for special operations, which is always near and dear to my heart. Before we get to that, though, a quick word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Hylete. Hylete is a fitness apparel brand. They make bags. They actually make some training shoes, too. I just picked up a pair of their Fuse pants, and I'm actually wearing them right now. Again, Hylete's pants are literally the most comfortable pants I own. I bought my first pair in 2017, and they still look brand new. Highly recommend their products. They're very, very good. And then their backpacks are amazing, too. I have two of their backpacks that I pretty much bring to every race. I bring them on every travel trip I take, which is frequent. And they're both still very good condition, look brand new. We've got a bunch of reviews on Mud Run Guide for Hylete, both their compression shorts and then their pants and their T-shirts. And then they also do actually formal apparel. So they have button-down shirts and polo shirts, both with that athletic fit. So if you've been working out a lot and you want to show those gains, but still look pretty nice, they fit really well. So go over and check out Hylete. All right. Joining me today, I have Josh Andrews. So Josh, say hi.
Hello.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of breeze over his bio, but we're going to start talking about a lot of the stuff I kind of gloss over here a little more in depth. But, in high school, played some baseball, football, and did some weightlifting there. And then after college, got involved more into strength training and started competing in bodybuilding. So also a big fan of that. One is NABF Pro Card. Was it National?
North American Bodybuilding Federation.
North American Bodybuilding Federation. There we go. One is Pro Card there. And then in 2012, switched over, kind of went to the opposite side of the spectrum, started focusing on endurance. So again, very similar to my background. I switched over in 2014. Started doing some more OCR and endurance stuff. And then the big things, he's the last couple of years, he's been doing fundraising stuff for Special Operations Warrior Foundation. And specifically, most of them were at a Warrior Dash, but don't be fooled because they sound absolutely awful. So let's see, 2017, he lunged the length of the Warrior Dash, a 3.3-mile course. 2018, bear crawled the same course. And then 2019, clean and tossed a 75-pound sandbag for the entire 3.3-mile course. Took 2019 off, and he's planning on this year, 2021, running the Long Haul 100 while carrying 2 Chop Fit chopper axes. So these are axes that they're basically fitness axes that you use to swing and build muscle. You want to describe those a little bit more, Josh?
Yeah, they're fitness axes. You hit it right on the nail there. And they are designed for functional workouts, unorthodox. And it works everything from your grip to your core to, however you can maneuver the axe, whether it's one in your hand or 2 in your hand. The company also has an app where you can download and get workouts for them as well. But they're awesome. I was interested in them, got one and started training with it, and it hit places that I had never really known about for a long time since bodybuilding days. But it's it's a great product, and they weigh a little over 4 pounds. These ones, the Chopper Pros, weigh a little over 7. But I'm going to be carrying 2 of them for 100 miles,
which adds up.
Oh yeah,
that definitely adds up. So other than that, you've done a lot of other endurance stuff. So you got the one and only BFX 24 in there, Georgia Death Race, Go Ruck, Heavy Tough Light, Go Ruck Star Course, Long Haul 100 miler, Lost 118. So a lot of great endurance events, and has a bunch of top 10 finishes to your name. I'm not gonna run through all of them, and a couple smattering of podiums here and there. So let's. I want to talk. We're going to be talking about bodybuilding this episode towards the end. I want to talk about your endurance events you've done and the money you've raised for charity. A little more about Special Operations Warrior Foundation. So I'm going to kind of go in a little bit reverse chronological order. So let's start off with the big one coming up in 2021. Describe what you're doing, when it is, and go.
It's a 100-mile race that I've ran a couple of years ago. Long Haul 100. It's in Land O'Lakes, Florida. It's 10 10-mile loops. it's a different style course. There's a central hub and you kind of do fingers or spurs off of it, where you go out and back and you go down a different trail and back. So it's 10 of those, and each one equals 10 miles. So 100 miles total. And I'll be carrying the two axes in my hands. The only time they will be out of my hands is when I'm at an aid station or at my own personal crew aid station. My plan is to finish it under 30 hours. That's also the Western States qualifying time.
Nice.
And then my strategy for completing it is to do a 4-minute run, 1 minute brisk walk to recuperate. And that's my goal, is under 30 hours.
Yeah. So, in your training up for this, what have you found that was kind of surprising, or we like, yeah, my hands and forearms will get tired, but it's just a lot of that. Is there anything that like really surprised you? I don't know, blisters in a weird part of your hands or whatever. Something like
that. Whenever I do any of the challenges that I've done for the special ops, I kind of try to pick a game plan and do a little bit of training experience from those movements or exercises. And for this one, what I've noticed is it's not my forearms or my grip that gets tired. It's later on in the miles. Did a 30 miler with them this past Saturday, and about after the 25th mile, my traps really started kind of burning and got sore spots on my thumbs where the head of the axe kind of rubbed.
Interesting.
So this week I've just been kind of playing around with different grips. Because one of the things I don't, with these challenges, I don't want to make them necessarily easier for me in a sense. Like I don't want to, wear a bunch of pads on my hands or try to use any sort of wrap to keep them strapped to my hands. I want to feel the true feeling of, the whole experience. I don't want to try to take steps to make things that much easier, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm tracking. Just for our listeners, why do you feel that way?
Well, to me, these challenges mean a lot more than just, a fitness feed. I'm doing them for a cause. Special Operations Warrior Foundation, the charity, they give, so much to the Special Operations family, because the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, the Special Operations officers or that, that lose their line of battle, this charity helps pay for their children's education. It also helps the family out as well. So Special Ops gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we can do these things back here. We can have the races. We can, do the bodybuilding, and, the country is protected, and, they give the ultimate sacrifice. So if I was, get all padded up and, make everything cushy, it just would take away the meaning for me personally.
Gotcha. Totally tracking, and figured that's where you were going to go with it. And love that charity. Very good cause. A lot of the charity events that I've done to raise money, I usually use Folds of Honor, which is similar thing, right? Scholarship money to children whose parents were killed or wounded in action. So, and the reason I didn't go with Special Operations Warriors, because my college roommate was not in Special Operations and he died. So he didn't have kids, but and then the only soldier I've lost from my units was actually when I was in the conventional army. So I saw, part of me feels like a stronger connection for loss there, even though I come from a Special Operations background.
Gotcha. Okay.
So let's go. Where can people follow you, and where can people get updates? And then what's the date of it?
Yeah, January 16th. So it's right, week and a half away. I'm going to be doing some Facebook Live when I can during the event. I'm going to have a crew member there as well who's going to be doing some updates. But for my personal updates leading up until the event, everything's done on Facebook and Instagram. That's really the only social media outlets that I'm consistent with. I have Twitter, but it's not anything that I'm I'm not consistent with it at all.
Yeah. And your Facebook is just Josh Andrews, and then your Instagram is?
My Instagram is, geez, what is it? I think it's Josh TBS, Josh _ TBS. I think it's the opposite of my email. It's weird.
And then where can people donate to the charity?
Specialops.org.
Do you have a special donation link for your specific event, or is it just a generic donation link?
Yeah, just the generic. It's just the website.
Okay. Cool. So we'll make sure we get a hold of that link and share it to the Strength and Speed page.
Okay, appreciate that.
All right, any final thoughts before we move into some of your other endurance feats that you've done in the past?
Anybody that would like to follow along, like I said, I'll be doing some Facebook Live when I can. Updates. I should be able to do quite a few of them, considering how the format of the race is. I'll be coming into the central hub. God, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 times per every 10 miles. 3 times for every 10 miles. So I'll be able to, obviously do some updates, and my crew member should be able to help me out with that as well.
Nice. Sounds good. And, I remember the first time I saw your name was during, it was actually, I think, a Mud Run Guide article where they talked about you lunging the entire Warrior Dash. And I just remember thinking, like, that sounds so awful. And I mentioned in your bio, you've done the Warrior Dash, something, I would call it something awful combined with the Warrior Dash 3 times. So I guess let's start at the first one and take me through, again, just kind of the experience and, how long it took, stuff like that. I think people are just generally curious about that. So start with the lunging one. How long did that take? And, what were some of the worst parts about it?
Yeah, so that was back in 2017. It was my first attempt at a fitness feat for the Special Ops Warrior Foundation. I carried their flag the whole way. My wife was with me. She had a pack on, that carried my, some nutrition and stuff. It took 7.5 hours, which the first mile went by, first 3/4 of a mile, I should say, went by pretty smooth. Had a good pace going, wasn't overdoing it, and then it just got to where everything really after the first mile, that 3/4 to a mile was pretty kind of painful. And then after that, just like everything went numb and the whole lower body was pretty well gassed.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you know what your splits were by any chance? Like how long it took you from, first mile, second mile, third mile?
Oh, no, I should have broken that down because, I wore my Garmin watch. But one of the things that I found out about these heats too is that you get a lot of extra movement in there. Because I swear that we were at, I don't know, a mile. Well, at least the mile marker said a mile, but people were coming by and their watches said 3/4 or half a mile. I was like, what? There's no way. But yeah, the splits would have been very interesting. I wish I would have recorded those for all of them.
All right, and then your next one was the bear crawl one. So how long did that one take? Because that one to me sounds worse.
That's what a lot of people originally thought. My wife, a bunch of people on that I know, that I told her I was doing it, like, well, what are you going to do about your back? Your lower back's going to hurt. And it surprisingly didn't bother me at all. The worst part were the blisters on my palms.
Oh, wow.
I do a lot of my personal training that I do for me, just as a fitness, enthusiast, athlete, whatever. I do a lot of animal movements, and bear crawls is probably the number one. So I consider myself a fairly strong bear crawler. So I I knew some of the aches and pains that I probably would have endured, but it wasn't my back at all. It was more of my elbows, and my palms were the biggest one because I had blisters on my palms. So that was the pain. And time wise, it took. I was plus or minus 5 minutes or so of my lunge time.
Oh wow, that's
So
pretty
yeah,
impressive that it was
it
that
was
similar.
it was. I think just the breaks were my resting times were a little bit less. Because I mean, obviously you can lunge a lot faster for the most part of a bear crawl. I mean, you could try sprinting doing a bear crawl, but you're going to burn out pretty quick.
Yeah.
But
so, and then the next year you followed it up with the 75-pound sandbag clean and toss. How long did that take?
This is,
and compare that to the other ones for me.
Yeah, so I had this one I thought nailed down. I was like, this one is golden. It might take me, about the same amount of time, maybe a little bit longer. I thought I had everything figured out. The bad thing is I didn't actually make it the full course. I had to pull out a little after 2 miles. I was basically right at the course cutoff time.
I was going to ask about that. Did you coordinate with Warrior Dash ahead of time and let them know what you were doing, or you just kind of show up and go for it?
Yeah, I just showed up and go for it.
Got it.
And so there's two things that I didn't account for. The first and foremost was my hands. I ended up having to put on gloves because my knuckles got tore up almost to the point where it was pretty close to getting into bone territory on my pinkies, and I still have welts on them from 2019, and they still get sore.
Wow.
The other part, the sand mixed in, I just miscalculated that, and then the other part was all the puddles. I wasn't even thinking of that. So what started out as a 70 to 75 pound sandbag easily ended up being 85 pounds at points because of the water, it landing in the water. Because I went right through the puddles. I didn't go around or anything. Same thing with the bear crawls and lunges. I went basically right down the middle of the course.
Yeah. So you use an actual sandbag, right? Not like a rec bag or something similar?
Right. An actual, yeah, it had full on sand in it. Yeah. It was, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So that was very interesting.
Well, not gonna lie,
painful.
All three of those sounds absolutely terrible in their own terrible way. But I think what you're doing is great, and I think it's for a great cause. And a couple of weeks ago we had a South African athlete on the podcast talking about a rope climb, and I think these kind of like outside the box events, they draw more publicity. Like I saw you were on your local news channel on your Facebook page. And
yep.
I think that stuff's great. It exposes the wider world to obstacle course racing. And, hopefully someone sees that and they're like, this guy's doing what now? And then they're like, oh, there's a thing called obstacle course racing. Oh, and they kind of explore it further. And then they're like, oh, anyone can do this stuff. It's not, you don't just have to be crazy and be lunging the entire time.
Right. Right.
Now you have done a fair number of other endurance events, including stuff like GoRuck. And, we were talking just before the podcast started about your day job. So why don't you share your day job with us and then kind of how GoRuck has somehow inadvertently influenced some of that?
Yeah, I'm a PE teacher at a alternative ed school. So I work with, we cater to from 6th grade all the way up to senior year in high school. So I work with all the grade levels, and
define alternative ed for people.
First year at the school.
I wasn't aware what it was.
They were. Oh, okay. So they get they do something, whatever behavior wise, that gets them kicked out of their zone school, and they get sent to our school for a certain amount of time based on the infraction that they did at the school. And so when they came last year, I was the a new PE teacher at that school, and I implemented, I guess, unconventional PE. A lot of the students they came to the school and they lacked self-discipline, self-respect, even self-love, self-pride. So through my experiences with Go Ruck and some of the other events that I've done, just I tried to instill, and we did some of that style training, workouts, what have you, everything, team building, leadership skills, following skills, listening skills. It was much more of a broader PE. To me, it was true physical education, not just learning how to play basketball or whatnot. It was something that these kids really needed in a physical sense.
Well, that's very, God bless you for the work you're doing over with those kids. I am not good with kids, and I can only imagine some of the challenges you have to deal with. So,
this year's a lot different, just with everything that's going on in the world. Not allowed to do the same or even remotely the same stuff we did last year. So this year's a lot different. Unfortunately, it's not as fun per se, just for lack of better words. It's not as fun because I know I had kids that really enjoyed and really wanted to do what I was doing. And, I'll just be honest. Some of it was painful. I mean, some of these kids have never worked out before. Some of these kids have never done those style, gotten out of breath or had to move, a fairly heavy object for a distance under duress. I mean, we did everything from tourniquet training to casualty carries. I mean, we did a lot of pretty cool stuff.
That sounds great. It sounds like way better than the PE class I was taking when I was in high school.
So. Yeah, there was a few that wouldn't have said that, but
yeah, I feel like even those that probably, in hindsight, they probably appreciate it. I think challenging experiences and in the moment, a lot of times they are not pleasant, but in hindsight, you're glad you went through them, and it gives you, future strength to deal with similar challenges. Because
correct.
Hopefully, something that happens to you day to day won't be as bad as the time you were. Your PE teacher made you carry a 200-pound student that was a casualty, in air quotes there, up and down the football field or whatever. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason the military uses a lot of that style training. It builds teams, it builds resiliency, all that good stuff that you've taken from the military world and applied into high school for troubled use. So I think that's really awesome.
Sure.
All right, let's jump over. Any final things you want to say about that before we jump into some of the bodybuilding stuff?
Yeah, just something I'd like to mention because I've gotten it a lot, especially during these events. People ask, or they say, thank you for your service. I have never served. I've never served, never claimed to have. It's just I really, truly respect and honor the individuals that sacrifice for the better of the country. So that's what I tell everybody. It's like, if they ask, have you ever served? No, I've never served. I have some close friends that are former special ops or, served as. So I just really, truly honor and respect individuals.
Right on. Well, sounds like your heart's in the right place there. So much appreciated. All right, let's jump a little backwards in time to before the endurance world. Talk about bodybuilding. Why did you decide to go down that route? It's because it's as it's a very weird culture, right? Like you're essentially naked on stage, minus like a little sack over your junk there, and someone
right.
spray painted you like dark, almost black before you stepped on stage. You were probably naked when that happened. It may have been a stranger, it may have been a spouse. It's a weird world. And then like they grease you up and you stand on stage and you kind of like you're like a show horse there. So why did you decide to go that route, first of all?
Well, I'd always been interested into, not always, but I think it was like 6th grade. I think I started, my dad had a weight set down in the basement, and, he was down there doing his curls and pumping his iron, and he's like, come down here, try this. So I tried it. I was like, wow, that feels kind of neat. So I get interested in weights, probably about the 6th grade a little bit. And it wasn't until high school that I really started lifting heavy and learning more about it for football. And I did everything wrong back then because football, I'm from Maine, so our seasons are completely opposite of what they are here. Not opposite, but we don't have year-round baseball, or didn't have year-round baseball, year-round football. We had it one time. So in the fall was football. Winter was weightlifting after football. And then after weightlifting, spring came, there's baseball. So I would play football, weightlift, be almost bigger for baseball than I was for football. And then over the summer, just get in a little bit better shape. So I'd be really kind of smaller for football. It is a weird cycle. Then I went to college, and they didn't have, the college I went to, they didn't have a football team. Baseball wasn't an option, just due to, one, my lack of interest in the way my schooling panned out. I wanted to be redshirted because I was going to be there longer, and the coach, anyway, that's a whole nother side story. It just didn't work out. And so I started hitting the gym more and got more involved and started working at the university's fitness center, and saw a woman in there that was pretty, not huge, but she was really shredded, and told me she was a bodybuilder. I talked to her more, and eventually decided, all right, I'd like to give this a shot. So I talked to her more. She gave me some tips more on diet and a little bit of training, and that's where it just blossomed. And I ended up doing my first show, finished second in my division, and it just snowballed. My second show won the overalls at a state show, the Maine states, and then went to NABF nationals on my third show and earned my pro card.
Yeah,
and
that's wild. And
yeah,
how long
and
did you end up doing bodybuilding for total?
Oh, let's see. My first show, man, it was the whole time, like training specifically for bodybuilding. It was about 12 years in that range.
Oof. That's a long time. And tell people, the hardest part about bodybuilding, what is it?
It's weird, different stages. Probably a lot of people say the dieting was the hard part, which for me it wasn't.
Oh, really?
My personal hard part was the routine, the posing routine.
Okay.
First of all, when I decided to do a bodybuilding show, my biggest fear was stepping on stage, being in that little banana hammock.
Yep.
That was my biggest fear. The second part is when Cheryl, the lady who was the bodybuilder, she told me that I'd have to do an individual routine. So I'd be up there all by myself, all eyes on me, and I'd have to do all these weird poses and transitions and to the music and be harmonious. And I was like, well, maybe this isn't for me. Because I'm not really comfortable being up there in a little Speedo, but if there's other people up there and not all eyes are on me,
yeah, okay, it's less intimidating.
That's a little bit better.
I agree.
Right. And so it was, yeah. So for me, that was always the hardest part. Was even later in my career of it, just the routine, I just dreaded the routine. And it was funny because I eventually moved down to Florida and worked my way up through the Florida ranks in the NPC, and shows wanted me to come and guest pose, and so I'd come and guest pose. It still bothered me to go out there all by myself. It was even on that. It was weird.
But how long before a show? How long would you diet for?
I started out with 12 to 14 weeks earlier in my career. And I was like, man, there's got to be an easier way to do this. 12 to 14 weeks is that's crazy. So just through talking with people and learning about diet and what my body likes and doesn't like, and obviously training and how my body reacts to certain things, I pared it down to about 8 weeks because I would stay leaner year round.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it was more like a fine tuning versus, because when I first started out, so my bulking diet when I first started out was I would eat a pound of peanut butter a day throughout the course of the day, on top of 500 calories every 2 hours. And then I would drink milk, olive oil, and egg whites before I went to bed.
Amazing. That's hardcore.
Yeah, I got to the point where it was hard to tie my shoes. I was 269 pounds for, I don't know, a couple days, but I averaged right around 260 at that point. But I would get out of breath just standing up.
And then what was your stage weight? What would you cut down to?
Oh, I get down to 180 my first show.
That's a lot of weight to shed.
I was a chubby dude. I was round.
And then also
it was not comfortable.
Describe people what a diet, like a bodybuilding diet, consists of. You know.
Well, that's another thing. My diet, I made it really simple. So for example, the last 3 years of competing, I ate every 2 hours. This is every day for my diet. Just the ratios would be different. Ground beef, rice, and green beans. And then I would have a steak and green beans for dinner. So every 2 hours. So I ate like 9 times a day. So, but I ate 8 of those times I ate a day was just ground beef, rice, and green beans. And then steak and green beans for dinner. And that was for 8 weeks.
A lot of red meat. I'm surprised. Most usually chicken and fish for a lot of people. But
yes, that's what I started out as, with chicken and fish and egg whites, and I I ended up talking to a guy that had competed for a while. He was a coach, a team coach, and he said, let me work with you on this one show. And there's only one other person that diet wise that I worked with, and that was that female bodybuilder. So up until this point, I only worked with one person about diet. And I was like, all right, I'll give you this one shot. But I'm telling you, if I come in looking like crap or all this stuff, you're gone. I'm gonna take you out. So I put all my faith in him and diet, and he did my weight. He dialed me in, and I won the overall. And then after that, I was just, okay, I'm good. Thank you. This is awesome. So
yeah, can't argue with that. So
I think a lot of it had to do with go ahead.
Go for it.
Oh, I think with the the ground beef that has the higher fat than your chicken and fish, and I believe that it's just the way that I trained that my body really adapted to that well. That I needed the higher fat content, because I rarely took days off. I had a system down where I would train, like, I'm paying for it now. My joints crazy hurt now, but I was just like I didn't like to I was stupid about it. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I got out of it. It's just everything it wasn't longevity. It wasn't for for long term. I couldn't see myself doing it, for years down the road without, being in a wheelchair or something.
I mean, it's a rough lifestyle, and the fact that you did 11 years is, I give you a lot of credit for that. I don't think people who've never done a show understand how much effort and training goes into it, right? Like, but I used to do a lot of running before I got into bodybuilding, And when you train for a marathon, you run in the morning and then you go about your day, right? Like I did my training for the day. I generally eat what I want. I try to eat healthy, blah, blah, blah. But when you're doing bodybuilding, it's like every hour of your day revolves around this. And like
Yes.
if you try to have a social life, like that's not really a thing. Or you need to be around people that are very, very understanding, because they're like, well, I don't understand. You just have like one bite of the burger. Why don't you just have one beer? And you're like, you know what? I'm just not going to come out next time. It's just too much. It's just too much of a hassle.
Yeah, it basically controls your life. And
so tell me, you know, as you switched over and got into obstacle course racing, we got two questions and then we'll start wrapping things up. But the first question is, and you may have partially answered already, you know, why switch to obstacle course racing, and like kind of what caused that switch?
Well, I like I had mentioned, bodybuilding was awesome. I don't regret it. It was a great experience. It's just longevity and the consumption of time involved to get where I wanted to go and where I was. It was just the longer I stayed in it, the more time it consumed of my day, of my life. And I didn't want it to be all about that. I just reached a point where, you know what, I still want to be fit. I still want to work out, but I want to have a lot more fun. I want to have more downtime. I want to be able to kind of do or eat what I want without worrying about it. And so I went to a national level show in the NPC. The IFBB North Americans got crushed. It was the lowest place I had ever. First time I placed lower than third, and they stopped placing you at 16, and I placed 16th along with many other people. So I was just like, you know what, I'm good. I think I trained for, I don't know, a few more months after that. I just kind of, you know, just thought about things, but still kept my training at a high level. And then I was just like, you know what, I can't. It's not worth it. Because I just found that it was, the more I stayed in it, the more it consumed me, the more I want to make this happen. I want to get my pro card. I want to do it. No. I just don't want to go down that road. So I switched into, you know, starting to run some 5Ks. And the first time I ran after being done with the bodybuilding training, I couldn't even go a quarter mile without stopping, huffing and puffing. It was crazy.
Yeah. So what, you know, as you transitioned into more of the endurance lifestyle, then, you know, as I read in your bio, you started doing some really long stuff, right? Like BFX, ultra, 24-hour, and some 100-milers and stuff like that. You know,
Yep.
what lessons did you pull over from the bodybuilding world that apply to endurance or obstacle course racing?
It's just, I don't train the same way. My training isn't as precise, isn't measured, isn't as dedicated as it is now as it was when I was bodybuilding, because I don't want to get to the, you know, where I don't want it to almost be like a job again. But when I get into these events, that's where my discipline, that's where my headstrong comes in. And, you know, I'm going to push. I'm going to do the best I can. If I set out to run 100 miles, I don't want to DNF. I'm going to push through, you know. It's the conversion lessons, man, it's just about, I don't know, like, you got to enjoy it. Like, I enjoyed it, you know. You can tell, because there's some people that want to do these things and it's just not for them, and sometimes you can tell. But when you're doing something, that you got to enjoy it. And if you enjoy all aspects of it, the after, the fatigue, the during, just like I did when I was bodybuilding, I enjoyed all that. You got to get into something that you enjoy.
That's good. No, I like it. That's a good lesson.
Yeah, if you enjoy pushing yourself, which I do, then that's where you gotta run with it.
I know I've had some friends over the last couple of years that, it felt like they were still obstacle course racing just because, that's what they've done the last couple of years, and not because, and like you were saying, like their heart didn't seem to be in it anymore. It's just like, I'm just going through the motions because I don't know, this is what I've done the last couple of years, and I don't have a better idea at this point. So
right, sure, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that too. But I mean, I just can't see doing something that I don't fully enjoy.
Right on. Cool. Well, a lot of good information there, and surprised at how many similar kind of crossover background points we have.
Yeah,
before
definitely.
before we get going though, we like to ask people, tell us one thing people would be surprised to know about you. So, I didn't give you much prep. I told you at the beginning of the podcast about this, so let's see if you came up with anything good, and then I'll try to match it, or I may just go off and share something random.
All right. So something that a lot of people might, or what was it again? Something that was unique, or
people would be surprised to know about you. So.
Oh, well, I used to be, and kind of still am. I'm not in it as much. I haven't done it for a long time, but I used to be the biggest sports card nut around, collecting all the, baseball, football, basketball cards. And it's not anything crazy.
Yeah.
But
do those still have any value? Like, I mean, they stopped producing, as far as I'm tracking. Like, I don't think there's baseball cards anymore, or if they are, they're very limited to run. Are they still doing that?
There's still cards out there. I haven't been into a sports card store in a long time. The last time I really started doing anything, I was buying everything off eBay, way back when eBay was big. I mean, it's still big, but
yeah, not like it used to be. I mean,
right.
20 years ago, it was like, oh, eBay. Now it's like, there's this thing called eBay that's still existing in the background.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, they're worth some, but the thing about that, it's almost like the stock market. It's kind of iffy. They're not like they used to be. Let's put it that way, because the mass production and everything really, and there's just a lack of interest.
Yeah. I just haven't seen, I'm trying to think of the last time I saw a store that like sold primarily like a larger amount of baseball cards.
Yeah, they've really switched up. Like Walmart, it used to be in any convenience store you could go in and there'd be, Topps or Donruss packs or whatever. Now it's in like one little section in Walmart, and then there's, all the other like Pokemon or Pikachu cards or whatever else they got. There's just small little things of baseball, football, and basketball. And so the only other place you could get them would be online or going into a sports card store. And even their pricing guides, Beckett magazine, those have shrunk.
Yeah. A lot of print stuff in general has gone severely reduced from what it used to be.
Right.
20 years ago. But so I'll for something similar. I never really, I had a bunch of baseball cards and probably a couple of football cards, but it wasn't a huge collection. I did have a lot of Marvel cards, so like the Marvel characters. So I had most of one of the series of that, and then other than that, comic book collection. I have a fair number of comic books. The Green Lantern is what I had subscribed to, and I have like, I think the third series I have every issue, so like 1 to 225 or something like that.
Wow, nice.
A smattering of other stuff, but I still read comics, although I find that now I care less about the actual value of the comic because I'm just not interested in buying and then trying to resell at some point. So I'm all about digital comics. So I'll download something to my phone or
gotcha,
my reader, and it's like you can get a trade paperback that would cost like $40, and you can get it for like $10. So you get you get the same story as long as you physically want the comic. If you just want the story, there's a lot of great options available. So I still read comics occasionally.
If you still have those Marvel cards, those might be worth something. Marvel, the Marvel industry is booming, with all the.
That's a good point. I should look it up and try to. They're at my parents' house. I got to go and dig them out and try to resell them there. But yeah, there was a there's a lot of characters that, that's how I know them. It's from the cards. It's not from, there's most people read the popular comics, right? Like Spider-Man or whatever. But like a lot of the characters that are appearing in the movies now, I recognize from the cards from back in the day. So.
Yeah. Uh-huh. It's making us come back.
Yeah. Although I am more of a DC guy in general. Although DC does a garbage job with their movies. They're just like, here's more Batman and Superman. You're like, I know, guys. You do this like every 2 years. Like, do something else. So random story. I worked at Under Armour as like an through actually the military as like an intern kind of, or like a special guest for like 3 weeks. Back in, what year was that? 2013. And a DC rep came because they had released their alter ego line where they're talking about like, they have like Under Armour compression shirts with the different superhero logos. And the DC rep there was like, yeah, we really like to do a lot of Batman and Superman. It's like, that's why you guys are terrible, because you refuse to get anywhere outside your comfort zone. And I know the Green Lantern movie was terrible. No one likes it except me. But Marvel just has done such a better job with their Marvel universe versus DC. So, all right. Yeah, that's enough nerding out for a minute. Before we go, Josh, any final shout outs you want to give? Friends, family, sponsors, etc.?
Obviously, I'd like to, thank my wife, Amber, for supporting me in all these crazy things that I do. She may not like it or understand it, but she's very supportive. Like to thank Chop Fit for, they kind of pretty much sponsored me for the long haul, and like to thank the Special Operations Warrior Foundation for being supportive, and they give me materials to hand out to anybody who would like it. So I'll have some stuff at the long haul. I don't know what the long haul exactly is, their spectator requirements, but I know you can go there.
And share that date one more time for everyone.
January 16th. The race starts at 7 a.m. It's a Saturday.
And what's the closest big city?
It is in Land O'Lakes.
Like the butter?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that where the butter comes from?
No.
Oh, I was like excited for a second. I was like, this guy, like, isn't the Land O'Lakes have an Indian on it, or am I Native American? Can I no longer say Indian? Is that no longer PC?
I plead the fifth. I don't know.
I don't know. Did they remove her? Like they removed Aunt Jemima? I can't remember.
Right. I don't know.
We'll have to go research that.
Right.
Anyway,
to circle back on that.
Sorry, I digress there. Awesome. Well, we'll share some of your links and try to share some of your updates and a link for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. If anyone wants to donate, please do. Other than that, teamstrengthspeed.com. You can pick up any of my books in hard copy, and I have links to digital. If you listened to the podcast a couple weeks ago when I did the Q&A, I also mentioned that I was doing an update to my my best-selling book, The Strength and Speed's Guide to Elite Obstacle Course Racing. So the update is now live. It's available on Amazon and digital only at this point, and it's called The New Strength and Speed's Guide to Elite Obstacle Course Racing. You can find it. It's got me and Brenna Calvert, Red Beast Calvert, on the cover after winning Hannibal race in Kuwait. And when I recorded that podcast a couple weeks ago, I said I was going to drop the price, right? So right now it's listed at $9.99 or $9.98 or something on Amazon. So if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to give you a heads up. For one day, for 24 hours, I'm going to drop the price essentially as low as Amazon will let me put it. I think it's $2.99, so $3. And I'm going to do that on January 19th. So plenty of time for people to listen to this podcast. Mark it on your calendar. And the reason I'm doing that is because I know some people had bought the book originally, and I don't want to like charge you full price again for an update to the book, but I want you to have the updated information. So I'm basically dropping the price to $3 for a single day, January 19th. And, I'd mark it on your calendar now. I'm going to mention it when I release the next podcast on January 18th. And that'll be kind of your final warning. And I'm not going to post about it online, so it's just for listeners of the podcast who want to pick up a copy of the book or digital copy of the book. You don't have to prove to me that you already own a copy. I will go with your word. And I'm obviously not going to check because I have no way of checking. But yeah, January 19th, $3, new Strength and Speed Guide to Elite Obstacle Course Racing. It's got a ton of pictures in there that Stoke Shed took, Bobby Ross and Victoria Ross from, Conquer the Gauntlet, OCR America, and some of the other events throughout the Midwest. So definitely check that out. And then other than that, my biography book, Ultra OCR Man from Special Forces Soldier to Record-Setting Professional Obstacle Course Racer, is available on digital, hard copy, and on Audible. So you can listen to it if you want. And if you want hard copy, you can buy it off Amazon. But I prefer if you buy it off the Team Strength Speed website, because if you buy it off the teamstrengthspeed.com website, the profits from that go to Folds of Honor. So I don't make any money if you buy that book from my website versus Amazon. So head over and do that. Josh, thanks again for coming on. And then,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, last note, leg mitts. I'm out of large lights. I still have a couple of small lights and medium lights, and then I have small, medium, and large extremes all available. So, like I said, Josh, thanks for coming on. Great talking to you, and we'll have to meet up sometime when I come out to Florida. I know one of my teammates, Ashley and Jay and Ashton, live out there. So,
oh yeah, Ashley Samples. Yep.
Yeah. So I went out to Tough Mudder down there last year in December. It was actually technically that was the last Tough Mudder in the United States. Still, so they haven't held another event since then. So
right.
But yeah, it was a good time. And then we did some sightseeing, some Legoland, and some stuff like that. So
yeah, nice.
Definitely want to bring the family back out to Florida for a little bit and hit some more races once things open up a little bit more and do some more theme parking.
Yep, for sure.
Cool. Well, thanks again, and we'll catch up with you later. And best wishes on your event. You're gonna crush it, and looking forward to see how it goes.